It's an absolute pleasure to have you guys once again. Welcome to another Owner of Finance, Your Way to Freedom, one note at a time. Ask Me Anything Monday. I am absolutely excited to be with you guys today. As a reminder, if you can tell me where you're from, what city you're in, let StreamYard have permission to show your identity, just like Mr. Ray Pantak says. Greetings. Good to have you guys on board. A little bit about myself. My name is Dan Diaz, born in Mexico City, raised in San Antonio, Texas. Good to have you, Adiane. Facebook user, Dan. Make sure you let StreamYard have permission to show who you really are. Sohail, good to have you. If you could do me a favor, Sohail, and put on the comments the links so that for StreamYard, so that people can give permission to StreamYard, and then that way we can know who they are. A little bit about myself. I began my real estate investing career in November of 2015. I knew nothing about real estate at the time, but I considered myself a problem solver and a solution seeker. And my first deal generated me $80,000 in upfront profit and a $400 monthly spread. And guys, I was absolutely hooked. Sammy Prieto from Lubbock, Texas. Junior Octavio, what's going on? H-Town. My friend, thanks so much, Sohail, for putting the link to StreamYard. Now I mostly raise private capital to fund owner finance transactions. I teach seller financing as an acquisitions tool, and we do buy as much single-family homes, small commercial assets, land. We love land with seller financing. I consider myself an owner finance fanatic. I love a good dry red wine, stiff scotch, a cold beer, good travel, international travel. Man, I love my international travel. A little bit about myself. My beautiful wife and I have been married for 3 years now. We don't have any kids. Thank God. They're not even worth the tax write-off. No, I'm sorry. They're beautiful. I'm sure they are. We don't have any kids, though. What's going on, Mr. Ryan? All the way from Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio. Good to see everyone. Why was this group created? I believe as the financial markets change, our survival will depend on our ability to swim these tumultuous and uncertain seas. Moving forward, I believe that acquiring properties with seller financing will be paramount to growing our portfolio and yours as well. Baskar, hello to everyone. What can you expect to get out of the group? I have made a personal commitment to use this platform to share our experience, our tools, and our skills to help you sharpen your own creative financial acquisition teeth to make sharks out of you guys. And I'm going to do that by providing a community and an ambiance where exchanges are done and where you can grow in a way in which it really just provides growth for you and your family and allows you to devour every opportunity out there. Bettina, good to have you from San Antonio, Texas. What do I expect from you? Plainly simple, I expect you guys to be sharks. Now, that's not just a buzzword for me. It's not just another phrase I throw out there. To me, SHARKS is an acronym where I picked up that I learned from one of my mentors a few years back. And it stands for somebody who S, succeeds mercilessly. H, hates mediocrity. A, accepts no excuses. R, resolves to be action takers. K, kills their bad habits. And S, shares what you learn here. So if you have the mentality of a shark, welcome aboard. That is my expectation of you. Get to know a little bit about the group. It was created November 15th, 2020 with 0 members, just my little old self. And look at us. We are almost 4,000 members strong. And guys, I cannot have done it on my own. You guys see value in me being here on a regular basis. You guys see value in this group, and you guys have invited your friends, family members, real estate associates, wholesalers in your markets, rehabbers, flippers, note buyers, note sellers. And guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. My goal is to reach 10,000 as quickly as possible. And if you guys see value here, I know you guys are going to help me grow. So anyways, big hand of applause for you guys. I always like to commend you guys for it and invite you guys to please continue inviting those around you that you believe will benefit from this group. How about if we go ahead and get started? There has been an outpouring of questions, and guys, it's I'm real happy when I see these questions. This shows me that you guys are not only listening, but you are taking charge, you are doing your deals, you're running into challenges, you're bringing those challenges to the group, and you're letting us kind of help you weed through them, and for that, I'm super, super excited. So we'll start off with Mr. Clayton. He's got a question. He said, if you wanted an 80-20 note, but the RMLO messed up and gave you an 80-10-10 down payment, is there any way to fix it on the back end? So I was a little bit confused when I originally got this question. I reached out to Clayton to get a little bit of an understanding. And what really ended up happening, what he wanted to do was he wanted to create the first note, which he was going to sell for an X amount. And then the second note was going to be his mailbox money or his cash flow. And he just called it an 80-20 note. In reality, it can be any number. It could be 70-20-10. But the last number is going to be the down payment. The last number is going to be the down payment. The middle number is going to be the second lien position. And the first number is going to be the first lien position. So how does it kind of shake out in the real world? Well, let's say that you own or finance a property, and I'm just going to say $100,000 because that's simple math. And let's say you borrowed $70,000, hard money, private money, whatever you want to call it, grandma money, that's okay too. But you went ahead and owned or financed for $100,000, and you got $10,000 down. Well, that leaves a $90,000 balance. You can create two notes. The first one being for $70,000, the second one being for $20,000. You go ahead and sell off the first note to go ahead and pay grandma, your private lender, your hard money lender. And then you go ahead and keep the second one for your mailbox money, for your cash flow. So to answer your question, by the way, I go very deeply in the 10-hour owner finance training. If you guys haven't done it, definitely reach out to me if you want to take advantage of it. It's 10 hours of pretty deep dive instructions, and I go over dual note origination in it. Now, to answer the question, can it be fixed? Absolutely. Everything can be fixed in this world. In this case, what you would want to do is do a simple loan modification. Now, when you do a loan modification, then you're going to go ahead and modify the first two notes that you did so that instead of 80-20, it might be 70-20, or it might be 71.5 and 19.5, whatever the case. But a loan modification will allow you to do that. Now, you're still going to need your RMLO because when you modify those two new notes, those two loans, that's what they are, you need to make sure that you abide by Dodd-Frank and SAFE Act and all the regulations. And of course, you are going to need an attorney, real estate focused attorney, that can draft up the documentation. But loan modifications is something that can always be done afterwards. A great example of a loan modification is if the borrower gets behind on payments and their situation has been fixed up. They now found a job, or maybe their situation has now improved, and you're confident in their new paying ability. You can go ahead and do a loan modification and restructure everything moving forward. Some of the ways we've used loan modifications is we've purchased notes and we kind of want to improve their paper, so we can go ahead and do a loan modification. It does require the participation of the borrower, so kind of keep that in mind. You can't just modify it on your own and redraft documents. It does require the participation of the borrower. And from experience, you probably got to negotiate something. So, maybe a lower interest rate or perhaps some sort of structure that allows them to benefit. Personally, I have found that a $250 gift card allows kind of is enough for most borrowers to kind of sign whatever documents you need them to sign, provided it does not put them in a worse position. Only do loan modifications when you're going to be improving the situation, not only of the loan, but also the position of the borrower. So keep us posted on that, Mr. Clayton. Let us know how things go. Mr. Bhaskar, what risks, and he says, speaking in behalf of new members, what risks are involved with owner finance and how would you recommend minimizing them? So there are some very valid, real, tangible risks. You are dealing with a financial product. You're also dealing with a highly protected group of people known as consumers. So you would want to do a good amount of effort to get familiarized with Dodd-Frank, with SAFE Act, with all the rules and regulations associated with seller financing, owner financing, and in general, private lending to consumers. You got to remember, this is a consumer protected product. Now, what can you do to minimize those things? Guys, use professionals. What do I mean by that? Hire your RMLOs. Hire your third-party note servicing companies. Hire your real estate attorneys. Close at a title company every time it's possible. Don't do anything on the hood of a truck. Don't do anything by the seat of your pants. And don't do anything on a fly or on a whim. Don't be drafting up your own documents. It's funny. I had I'm not going to mention his name, but a lot of people might know him. I mean, he's very well known in social media. He came up to me for rehabbing and flipping and wholesaling, not for owner financing. But he came up to me and he says, "Hey, do you have a packet of documents that I can maybe borrow and cut and paste because I'm going to go ahead and owner finance a property?" That got me real worried. And I told him, like, look, I do, but I'm a little concerned that your attitude is so laissez-faire about it. Excuse me. This whole copying and pasting and cutting and drafting up your own documents, why are you not going to an attorney? Why are you not using an RMLO? Why are you not closing at a title company? And his answer, I kid you not, his answer was, because they cost a lot of money. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? That's your answer? So this is my thought process. If I'm ever in front of a judge where I have to defend my position of what I did, how I did it, why I did it, when I did it, I want to be able to point fingers at other people in a good way. I want to be able to say, hey, listen, I consulted with this board certified real estate attorney. This is the recommendation he gave. Hey, listen, I went ahead and hired this licensed residential mortgage loan originator. This is what they suggested. I went ahead and hired this licensed third-party note servicing company. That's all they do. So I have all these people in my power team that in a good way, I can point fingers to and say, hey, listen, the reason I did this is because I received the counsel of this individual, who, by the way, is licensed in this field. If we got it wrong, I am so sorry. I take full responsibility for it. But a judge will always want to see that you tried. Intent is super powerful in front of a judge. So if I can prove that I tried to do the right thing and I can show definite steps to do it, that's awesome. Somebody asked me, who wrote up these documents? I want to be able to say, it's right there. Attorney such and such. Who went ahead and said that this loan was a consumer approved okay product? This RMLO. This is their license. Let's go talk to them. So those are big, big things that you can expect. Now, is there an owner finance police out there? I don't know. There is. Have I seen anybody, get their book thrown at them because they, have made mistakes? No, not really. Have I seen people get into legal trouble because they have been delinquent and abusive and fraudulent? Yes. So you definitely want to make sure you stay above the law, get educated, hire professionals. And Jesus says, I get all my contracts from an attorney licensed in the state for the first time, and I use the contract for subsequent deals as long as the deal is similar to the earlier one. Yeah, you started off with an attorney. You want to make sure that you can, have someone to track it to for sure. Srigan, by the way, old shark of the group. If you guys have any questions about buying or selling notes, definitely recommend you reach out to him. Sammy Prieto got a good question. He says, if you have a note created for your seller and you wrap it and your owner occupant cashed you out early, you mention in the training that you can have a conversation with your seller to see if they would like to cash them out. What is the next step? I do recall you tell them you will need a discount on the unpaid principal balance. What would the paperwork look like since you have a new agreement for a lower cash out? It's an adjusted payoff amount. That's really what it is. And for those of you who are listening, what Sammy was referring to is, let's say I've got an unpaid principal balance of $100,000 with my seller. I purchased it with seller financing. I then wrapped it, and my new owner finance buyer is going to sell the property and cash me out, or perhaps refinance and cash me out. I can then have a conversation with the original seller and say, hey, listen, I know I've got a debt of $100,000 with you. I'm totally okay with that debt. I love that debt. I'm happy with it. But I just want to let you know that I'm coming up with a little bit of money from the owner finance buyer. And I'm curious if you would be interested in a lump sum payout. I know I owe you $100,000, but how about if we settle for 70 or 75 or 80 or 85? Many times this works because you show them the value of getting paid now versus continuing to get paid over time. If they agree to the lower payoff amount, you just go ahead and have your attorney and your title company that you are closing with, because yes, you are closing at title companies, and have them draft up an adjusted payoff amount. They will send it to the seller, the original owner finance, the original seller finance seer. They'll go ahead and sign off on it, and then basically they'll be accepting a lower amount. Great way to add additional points of profit along the line for sure. Mr. Stan's got a question. Can someone guide me where I can purchase the list of code violation and tax delinquency for Bexar County or the city of San Antonio? I don't know if there are any places that actually have the lists. However, you can get them for free by filing with the city of San Antonio an open records request. It'll take them a little bit of time to process. I believe they're going to charge you like $125 processing, time, because they got to physically process it. Last time we did it was about $100, I think. But yeah, it's just an open records request, and you got to be very specific as to exactly what you're wanting. You want to say code violation for overgrown grass, or code violation for this, or if you're going to be doing the water shutoff list, say I need the addresses to the water shutoff list for Bexar County that occurred over the last 6 weeks or something, or 6 months, or however big of a list you want to do. Make sure that you let them know that they need to redact any private information. You're not going to get the people's names. You're only going to be getting the addresses. And then, of course, you can go through the process of skip tracing them. If anybody knows of a place that actually gets you that list, post it in the comments so that we can all see it. But I believe there isn't necessarily a list that you can buy, but rather it's an open records request that you can do. Oh, beautiful Facebook user. Here is the link for code violations in San Antonio. I don't know who you are, but thank you for posting it. Go ahead and have the click. Man, I love this community. Thank you so much for posting it for sure. All right, moving along. Ed Mora's got a question. At what point must I provide a written disclosure to a private lender? Would that include cold calling or striking up a casual conversation? So what he really wants to know is he wants to be SEC compliant when approaching private lenders or investors. Now, I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice. This is purely for information and educational purposes only. Keep that in mind. But if you're borrowing money from a private individual, and if they are going to be on a first lien position, and you are connecting one lender with one property, that's not SEC jurisdiction. SEC jurisdiction is when you are somehow commingling interests or selling shares in a specific property, or you're building a fund which is going to be used for various other properties. Under those situations, then yes, you got to go through all the SEC rules and regulations and all that good stuff. We don't do that, so I cannot tell you how to go about if that's what you're going to do. What we do is we borrow money, one lender, one property, one lien position. That is it. Once we go ahead and borrow that money, then we go ahead and wrap it to the final owner finance buyer. So we don't bring in several people into one property. We don't raise private capital, commingle those funds, and then use it for another property. If that's what you're doing and that's what you're planning on doing, then yeah, you need to have all sorts of conversations with all sorts of SEC people. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be the person. Oh, Mr. Charles, is that Uncle Charles? I hope it is. It'd be nice if it is. Thank you so much for posting that. Justin Long, yes, that is Uncle Charles. So hail, that's Charles Hernandez. Guys, if you're not familiar with Charles Hernandez or buying, home selling of San Antonio, they recently launched their RIA. I was there. I was honored to support them. They've got my money because they are awesome people, because they are individuals who do things right. And if you guys are in San Antonio, definitely think of supporting the local home buying, home selling real estate association. It was done at the Norris Conference Center. Charles, if you're still online, please do me a favor and go ahead and post a link for that to our audience for sure. Jared's got a question. Do you do lease options? Yes, I do lease options. Do I know of a lawyer that will defend a landlord who attempts to do them in Texas? Should they be sued? Okay, why are we talking about lawsuits, homeboy? So his question was actually much longer, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it all. His question was as follows. I've heard that they are basically illegal in Texas. That's not true, Jared. They're not basically illegal in Texas. There are a lot of things that you need to know about lease options in Texas, and I would highly recommend you become familiarized with them. If you're not familiar with John Jackson, he's like the god of owner financing, not just in Texas, but throughout the country. He knows how to do them right. He had a question, can't do a lease and a lease option concurrently. So the thing about lease options you got to remember is that there are two documents and they do not talk to each other. They do not reference each other. You're using the word concurrently. I don't like that word, and I'll say why I don't like that word, because concurrently to me means that they are both coming into existence at the same moment in time. Well, they are coming into existence, a lease and an option to buy. They are both coming into existence at the same time. So I don't know if I would use the word concurrently. Maybe what you meant is that they don't talk to each other. They don't reference each other. They are not part of the same agreement. And if that's what you meant, then yes, 100% true. You have to have a lease and you have to have an option to buy. In Texas, there is no such thing as a lease option or a lease with option to buy. That's where you start getting kind of a funky situation. Couple of things. None of the lease monthly payments have anything to do with the option to buy. Those are two totally separate documents. There are some gurus out there, and maybe in other states you can do them. I'm just talking about Texas, where they apply some of the lease payments into their down payment. Well, then all of a sudden you've got an executory contract in Texas. You've got all sorts of issues that you may or may not be able to get out of. You just need to keep them separate. You have a lease and you have an option to buy. Now, the option to buy is going to have an option consideration. It's going to have an option consideration. That option consideration could be anything you want. When we do our option considerations, they're usually 5 to 10% of the purchase price. Now, if they use, if they exercise their option to buy on the option to purchase, if they exercise their option to buy, we may choose to apply some of the option consideration towards either the down payment or the closing costs, depending on the lender they choose and the limitations that they have. None of the lease payments is going to be applied to the down payment of the home. None of the lease payments is going to apply to the option fee. Those two documents will not be talking to each other. So kind of keep that in mind. There's additional disclosures that you need to be doing. If you want to be doing lease options in Texas, like I said, connect with John Jackson. If you would like a little bit of coaching involved with it, you can also talk to attorneys like Alan Seshker in Austin, Daniel Castro in Austin, as well as the Owner Finance Network in Dallas. Scott Horn will be able to help you navigate through some of those questions, Mr. Jared, for sure. There's a link. Home Buying, Home Selling, Real Estate Association. Thank you, sir. I would never apply any part of the monthly payment towards the purchase price in a lease option, as they may claim equitable interest if you end up not selling the property. That's 100%. In Texas, it will very easily be considered a disguised installment sale. And then this is really the biggest problem, guys. This is really the biggest problem with lease options in Texas. There isn't a whole lot of problem if everything works out. There isn't a whole lot of problem if everything works out. However, if they don't exercise their option to buy, then what? Are you going to kick them out? What if they default? What if they don't pay? Are you going to kick them out? The obvious answer is yes. You don't pay, you don't stay. Welcome to Texas. However, here's the question. Are you going to be following the rules of foreclosure, or are you going to be following the rules of eviction? They're two different rules. Which of the rules are you going to be following? Charles agrees. John Jackson is the lease option king. I've elevated him to God. Lease option God. But I think we can leave him as king for sure. So the question is, what rules are you going to be following? You would logically think that you need to follow the eviction rules. However, if a judge deems that in reality you have an executory contract because of the way you structure things, then that means you should have followed the rules for foreclosure. But of course, you don't have the necessary documentation to legally foreclose in Texas. So that's the pickle that you're in. That's the reason it's so challenging in Texas. It's whenever they default and you have to get rid of them. How do you get rid of them? What rules do you follow? If you structured it correctly, then you're going to be following the rules of eviction, and your eviction will stand. But if you did not structure it correctly, then you have to follow the rules of foreclosure. But if you don't have the documents, deeds of trust, promissory notes, all that good stuff, then you're in a really, really bad situation. So that's why you really have to know how to structure your lease options in Texas. Absolutely prohibited, sandwich lease options. This is a situation where you take control of a property with a lease and an option to buy, and you dispose of the property with a lease and an option to buy. Those you cannot do in Texas under any way, shape, or form. Keep that in mind. Facebook user says JJ doesn't do lease options. He does lease option assignments. So that is technically correct. Yes, John Jackson does not do lease options. He does lease option assignments so that he's not liable. He assigns his option to purchase for sure. So anyways, there's a lot of questions when it comes to lease options. I hope that kind of answers some of them. Javi's got a question. I'm trying to work out my first seller finance purchase. $195,000 ARV, $20,000 rehab. I offered $122,500 in 180 equal monthly payments of $680.55. Congratulations. He went ahead and took my course. He went ahead and learned and educated himself how you start off with 180 equal monthly payments and you go from there. Of course, the seller said, how much down? Oh, the down payment question. What is the best way to overcome the down payment question? Guys, I'm going to give you guys some real gold. This is the way I overcome the down payment question. When I present my original offer, I say I'm able to give you full fair market value or whatever amount you agreed on if you allow me to pay you over the next 15 years, 180 equal monthly payments. They ask me about a down payment. Literally, I look at them and say, down payment? I'm sorry. What's that? And I shut up. Shutting up is extremely powerful because now you force them to elaborate. What do they mean by a down payment? And of course, they're going to be confused as well. They're going to come back and say, well, yeah, your down payment. How much are you paying down? Throw the ball right back at them. I'm sorry. I'm confused. So to help clarify, Mr. Seller, when I borrow money from a bank, I usually do pay a down payment. Right now, most loans with banks, they're asking anywhere between 0% down and 3.5% down. However, they're actually writing me a check at closing. I didn't know you were going to write me a check at closing. I wasn't asking to borrow any of your money. All I was offering was to pay you full fair market value for the property if you allowed me to pay in 180 equal monthly payments. Were you going to write me a check at closing? Are you lending me money? Because if that's the case, I am totally down for this conversation, and I am happy to give you bank terms if you're going to be a bank and you're going to be lending me money. I didn't know that that's the conversation we were having. And you shut up. That's usually enough information to really throw them off. And what you really want to do is bring them back to the conversation of the value that I'm bringing is full fair market value, or whatever price you already agreed on, provided they let me pay in 180 equal monthly payments. Now, this is where the scripts really come into play, because the way I set myself up for that, even before the offer is done, I say, hey, listen, Mr. Seller, I don't know what's important to you right now. All I know is that you have a property on 123 Main Street that doesn't seem to be benefiting you. It looks vacant. It looks abandoned. You're probably paying taxes on it, but it looks like it's a burden to you. What do you want to do? How can I help you with that situation? Are you interested in liquidating quickly for cash? I can do that if you'd like. Or are you interested in selling for full fair market value and, by the way, collecting payments for the next 15 years? Which conversation would you like to have? Now, if you notice the way I set it up, I went ahead and said, would you like to have a conversation centered around you getting full fair market value and guaranteeing monthly income or monthly payments for the next 10, 15, 20 years? And not if you give me 15 years to pay, I will pay you for fair market value. That automatically sounds like they have to do something in order to get something. And it's true, they're going to have to give you 15 years. But if you set up the question with, I will give you full fair market value and I will also get you guaranteed monthly income for the next 10 to 15 years, all of a sudden, that sounds like a perk. Justin Long, verbatim from the course. I love it. Sammy Prieto, gold. I love honesty and assertiveness. You have to be assertive. They have to believe you. They have to believe you, and the sellers have to believe that you are convinced, 100% sure. Now, bottom line, your question is, you're stuck with the down payment situation. How do you overcome it? Step one, have the seller convert the percentage to a dollar amount. Super important. Don't let them talk about percentages. Convert the percentage to a dollar amount. For example, always say, wow, you want me to pay you $25,000 up front, and you want me to spend another $20,000 fixing up the home? That is $45,000 that you want me to inject into this property? Guys, the psychology of you're wanting me to inject all this money into an asset that is only worth X is super powerful. You can't possibly, Mr. Seller, expect me to put $20,000 into fixing the home. That's the first thing. Psychology, words mean things. You don't want me to put $20,000 into fixing the home, and in addition to that, give you $25,000. Do you? Put it back on them. But make sure you put it back in dollar amounts, not percentages. Not percentages. There's a psychological impact, because then they can start thinking, wow, $45,000, that is a lot of money. $20,000, wow, that is a lot of money. I make $30,000 a year. That's like a whole year's salary. So that's the first thing. You want to convert the percentages. Don't let them fool you into talking about percentages, talking about dollars amounts. The beautiful part about this dollar amount situation is that you can easily negotiate down from the dollar amount, but it still sounds impressive. Like, for example, you can go down to $10,000. How much do you make a year, Mr. Seller? You make $50,000 a year. Well, $10,000, that's 1/10 of your yearly salary. convert it into an amount, into a term that is more impactful. So take them off the percentages and get them into and translate it into a dollar amount. Step 2. What do you really want, Mr. Seller? Just level with me. Be honest. What do you really want? What do you need? Do you need the cash, or do you simply want to see more commitment on my part? And shut up. Do not allow the conversation to move until they have expressed exactly what they want. Because there are solutions for each one of them, but you got to get them to commit to one of the two options. Do you need the cash, or do you simply want to see more commitment on my part? They may say, I need the cash. Mr. Seller, if you really need the cash, I believe you. Then it kind of sounds to me like we got to start talking about liquidating your property at a discount. And shut up. Super powerful. You say you need the cash, then we got to start talking about liquidating this property ASAP, because you need the cash. Oh, you don't really need the cash. Cabron. Liar. They simply want to see more commitment. So if they want to see the cash, get a dollar amount, figure out exactly what. Now this is something that you can do. Figure out a dollar amount and say, how about this? I go ahead and loan you that money. You say you need the cash. I'll be your pawn shop to help you get that cash. I'll be the pawn shop that'll help you get that cash. How much money you need? $50,000? I'll loan you $50,000. I'll give you 6 months to pay it back. If you don't want to pay it back, just go ahead and give up the collateral. All of a sudden, they're going to be like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? So do you need the cash or do you not need the cash? Be a problem solver. If they want the cash, loan them the cash. Now, how do you structure the loaning the cash? You buy the property, you hold the first lien position, you go ahead and give them a note, and then they got to pay you back in 6 months or whatever time you agree to. But it's real easy to get the capital for that money. Any private money lender, any hard money lender is going to lend you on 50% of ARV, 40% of ARV, 30%. How much cash do they need? Loan them the money, or offer to loan them the money anyways. That's what we do all the time. You need the money? Let's get you the money. I'll get you a loan. Oh, so I thought you don't need the money. What's going on, homeboy? I need for you to be honest with me. You told me you needed the money. I'll get you the money. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have your down payment and your terms. You can't have money up front and money over time. Got to pick and choose. You can't have full fair market value and money over time and money up front. What do I get? I get nothing. If I don't get nothing, I walk. Of course, you don't talk to them exactly like that, but it's super important that it's clear in your mind. When they ask for money up front, down payment, that's really what they're saying. They're like, oh, I do want the mailbox money, but I also want money up front. It's like, well, what the heck do you want? What do you need? What's your real situation? Step 3. If they say they want more commitment, offer to pledge something else as collateral instead. You want to see skin in the game, my friend? I get you. That's understandable. That's understandable. You want to see more skin in the game. How can I give you more collateral? Do you have a car title, a deed, a note, Bitcoin, stock, secondary note on the property? Offer more collateral. If they want to see more skin in the game, offer more collateral. At the end of the day, they're not going to want to take any of that because they don't know what to do with it. But if they're saying they want more commitment, be a stand-up man or woman or lady and offer them more commitment. Offer them more collateral. Step 4. If they are stuck on the cash as proof of commitment, negotiate a way to get it back. So if they're absolutely stuck that the only commitment they will accept is cash, what are you going to get in return? Lower price? That for sure. That'd be for starters. But negotiate a way to get it back. For example, Mr. Seller, if I faithfully pay and prove my commitment to you, can I get it back in 12 months? You want to see more commitment? You want to see performance? Well, if I show you my performance, can I get it back in 12 months? If they say no, question it. Why not, Mr. Seller? You're telling me you want to see more performance, more commitment. Well, I'm offering it to you. but I need my cash back because my cash in the bank gives me a 5-to-1 bang for my money. Gives me a 5-to-1 bang for my money. So I need that cash back. Once you see the commitment, once you see the performance, if you're not willing to give it back to me, then it's not commitment you're looking for. Then what is it? You lied to me when you told me that you want a commitment. What do you really want? Do you want cash now? Then we got to talk about liquidating it for cash at a discount. Make sure you pin them to what they really want. If they don't want to give it back after performance and commitment has been shown, can you count it as monthly payments paid in advance? So for example, Mr. Seller, $25,000 seems to be about 36 payments paid up front. If they don't want to return the cash, can we count it as monthly payments? They got to give you something. They got to give you something. They have to give you something. Dan got a slick little mouthpiece on him. Why don't you tell me who you are? It just says Facebook user. Yeah, negotiation. It's all about thinking on your feet. It's all about pinning them to what they said. They said they wanted commitment. I'm giving you more commitment. It always comes down to this. The only way this is going to work, is you tell me what you want, but you got to let me give it to you. You tell me what you want, your price, my terms. If you're wanting to dictate what you want and how you get it, the price and the terms, and when I say price, I don't mean just sales price. I mean, like, for example, down payment, I want 20%. You're dictating the price. Well, then it's got to be on my terms. If you do not want to give up price or terms, then you're not willing to negotiate. If you're not willing to negotiate, you're not motivated. If you're not motivated, I promise you, I cannot make any money off you. So it's just not going to work out. I can only, oh, that's DeMarcus. Good to have you, my friend. That's the only way it's going to work. We're only going to make money when we're talking to unsophisticated, motivated sellers. If they want to control the price and the terms, then they're not motivated. And if they're not motivated, you're not going to make any money off of them. That is the truth. Hope that answers your question. I know we kind of went a little bit off on it, but man, I love these questions. I do. Samuel says, I had a client with $100,000 down, didn't report his taxes. Legally, I thought that was your problem. You thought. I'm just kidding. I couldn't put a loan under his name. I asked him to file his taxes. 2 months later, he bought elsewhere. How? Maybe he bought from us. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm just messing you. But here I see 2 problems. 1, legally, you gave legal advice. You have no business giving legal advice. 2, it doesn't sound to me like you consulted with an RMLO. So 3, you lost the deal. It happens. But here, this kind of goes back to the first, and I hope if you're listening, I mean this with the spirit of love. We're not attorneys. I mean, you might be. I don't know. But I'm not an attorney. I'm not an RMLO. I'm not a third-party note servicing company. I'm a nobody. I'm a dude doing deals. That's it. So every little question, you know what? That's a great situation. Let me go ahead and talk to the professional. Let me go ahead and talk to my power team. Let me go ahead and talk to the licensed guy or gal that focuses on this. I promise you the RMLO would have said, don't matter. They got compensating factors. $100,000 down, that's a compensating factor. I don't know the sales price, but that's a compensating factor. So it's quite possible you very well could have easily done the deal. What is the recourse if they don't qualify to buy the lease option at the end of the term? How do we handle it on a legal aspect? I'm not an attorney, bro, or ma'am. I don't know who you are. It says Facebook user. Not an attorney. I cannot give you legal advice on anything that is mildly legal. What I can tell you is that all I need to know is whether or not they're going to exercise their option to buy. The reason that they are not exercising their option to buy is none of my concern. It could be that they don't want to. It could be that they can't. Not my concern. My only concern is this is an option to buy. Whether or not you're able to consummate that option, that is entirely on you. That's not legal advice. Consult your own attorney. This is only for educational purposes and all that good stuff, for sure. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Man, we got more questions. You guys want to keep on going? I think so. Joe, why don't you put your questions like ahead of time so that I can actually research them? Let's see. When buying a sub-2 and wrapping owner finance, could you go over the process of canceling and issuing a new insurance policy? When doing a lease option, I just put the insurance in myself and the seller's name. How about when wrapping it to an end buyer, seller's myself and buyer's name? Joe. Yes, you are high maintenance. So he's got an insurance question. The way we do our insurances, you guys can do them however the hell you want. But this is the way we do our insurances. So let's talk about you holding it as a rental, you holding it as an Airbnb, or you holding it as a lease with an option to buy. All of those are you holding it. You buying it, you owning and controlling the property. The seller will be additional, let's backtrack. You will be the name insured, or your LLC, or whoever the owner of the property is, that will be the name insured. The first lien mortgage or the first mortgagee, that doesn't change. That's going to be your Wells Fargo, your JP Morgan Chase, your Bank of America, whoever the underlying lien is with. And the seller will be the additional insured. The seller will be the additional insured. Now, if you wrap it to an owner finance buyer, the owner finance buyer will be the name insured. First mortgagee will be the Wells Fargo, the underlying mortgage, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, whoever they are. Your LLC, the investor, will be the second mortgagee, and then the original seller will be the additional insured. That's how we set them up. We've never had issues setting them up that way. If someone else has a different way to set them up, speak now or forever hold your peace. Mark, good to see you, my friend. Why are you laughing at me so hell? Moving along, guys, man. We got a couple more questions. I hope I haven't bored y'all. If I have, I'm sorry, but I just want y'all to learn something. I want you guys to close some properties under your name. Seller financing, 0 down, 0% interest. Wrap it, 10% down, 10% interest, 30 years. Make some mailbox money for sure. Sharon's got a question. Thoughts on a 12.95% interest? Ha! It's a little aggressive. I love it. Property is only $14,000. What is it? Little piece of land or what? 20% down, normal or high, not intending to step on any toes. So I don't know what the property is. I don't know exactly what your question is. If you're wanting to know if this is going to be a QM transaction, nope, probably not going to be a QM transaction. Property, I don't know, is it vacant land? If it's vacant land, Dodd-Frank doesn't apply. If by property you mean a shit shack somewhere, well, then Dodd-Frank would apply on all known shit shacks. It's a little high, but high compared to what? It all comes down to, in Texas, it's not over usury rate. I mean, if that was your question. But it's a little aggressive. I'm a little impressed. Then again, it's only a $14,000 property, so it doesn't translate to a whole lot of numbers. Oh man, someone did a nice comment. Subject to acquisition insurance structure parties is an insurance policy on a subject to acquisition. Name insured, the LLC or trust that you purchased the property. That's true. Additional insured, the seller must be listed here. If your LLC is listed as beneficiary in a trust, your LLC would also be listed here. ATIMA, that is the legal, thank you for posting that. That's the legal jargon for as their interest may appear. I've seen insurance declarations refer to this party as other third party, your personal name, or others who deal with insurance in your office. I don't know who did that. Thank you for sharing that. That's a nice setup as well. Ray says, raise the price and lower to 9.9% interest on the $14,000 house. Man, if that's a $14,000 house, I can't imagine what kind of shit shack it is for sure. But yeah, if you feel uncomfortable with 12.95% interest, that's a great strategy. Go ahead and use an amortization calculator to go ahead and lower the interest rate down to 10%, 9.99, 9.0, whatever, and that'll automatically increase the loan balance. I think, Ray, they were just asking if that was beyond the usury rate. And it's like, not in Texas. I don't know about other states for sure. Mr. Ray, big fan of the show. What might you have done differently when you first started? This is a real good question, Ray. There's a lot of people who are in the starting phase of their real estate careers, or perhaps their owner finance careers. My first deal generated me $80,000 in upfront profit and a $400 monthly spread for the next 30 years. I wish that wouldn't have been my first deal. I'm just being 100% transparent. That set me up for the wrong expectations. The first 3 years of my career, I kept chasing those $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 deals, and I got a few of them. But the time and energy it took to get those deals, I could have easily done 4, 5, 6 deals of $20,000, $30,000 each, and I would have ended up with 1, more practice, and 2, more money. So I know a lot of people say think big, and I did not think big enough in the beginning. Now, when I say I didn't think big enough, what I mean is I didn't think more deals, more volume, growing bigger. I definitely think much bigger now. But the second thing is I wish I wouldn't have believed that every deal was going to be an $80,000 deal. That's just not the truth. Right now, most of our deals have an upfront profit of $20,000 to $30,000. They have a monthly spread of about $300 to $500. There's a few exceptions out there, but getting a home run on the first swing, I think Ray put it out. Getting a home run on the first swing really makes you pass up a lot of singles and doubles, and I think that really hindered my personal growth. At least the first 3 years. Right around the 4th year, I was like, screw this, man. I need more action in my life. I need to see more volume. I missed out on experience because we didn't do a whole lot of deals. I didn't do a whole lot of deals the first 2, 3 years. And that's just something that I would have done different. The first 20 deals, guys, they're practice. But you need to do them. It's important that you do them. So the quicker you get them out of the way, I mean, you don't want to miss details. You don't want to make mistakes, but or super costly mistakes that you cannot recover from. But you want to get those first 15, 20, 30 deals out of the way as quickly as you reasonably can. You need to get those practice swings in to really kind of make it happen. Kenneth, he says, I flipped $100,000 first deal. I agree 100%. Yeah, it messes you up. You're like, oh wow, every deal I'm making $100,000. No, it doesn't happen that way. But if that's 100% of your experience so far, kind of messes with your mind. So that for something is something I would have done. I would have done different. So Harold, got an excellent question. Is creative financing really a passive income source? Like set it and forget it. How much involvement is required once a note has been originated? Man, this is a really good question because I think that there's a lot of people who believe that notes is really set it and forget it. And that's far from the truth. You got to do a ton of work up front. Really what notes is, it's doing a ton of work up front, not so much on physical rehabbing labor, but on marketing, on finding the right buyer, on making sure the origination is right, on making sure you close it well, on making sure that you set up a third-party note servicing company, that it's set up correctly, that you're escrowing correctly. So there's a ton of mental, borderline emotional injection, capital emotional injection, capital intellectual injection that you're putting into the deal up front. Once you do it, my experience is that it will likely be smooth sailing for about 5 years. 5 years, that's kind of the situation. Usually around the 5-year mark, something will start happening that could potentially put the note back to fragile. 5 to 7 years is the general benchmark in which most notes will last. They will either get refinanced, the property will get sold, or the borrower will fall victim of one of the big D's: death, divorce, disease, deployment. Big D's: death, disease, divorce, deployment. And that'll affect, their paying abilities. So it's not set it and forget it. It's more the mentality, not legal aspect, not tax aspect, but the mentality of work. Think of it more as lots of work up front and then smooth sailing for about 5 years. It is pretty smooth sailing once you set it up correctly. Think of it more as a long-term tenant. Obviously not for tax reasons, obviously not for legal reasons, but from the perspective of work, it's more of setting up a long-term tenant. If you set up the right tenant up front, you can kind of set it and forget it. So Hale, deportation, you're a horrible human being. Yes, that is another D that does affect the owner finance committee. Death, divorce, disease, deportation is certainly one of them. You're so bad, Sohail. That's horrible of you. So I'll tell you something, little story. Most of our buyers that do fall victims of deportation, they don't necessarily default. But on Mexico, they make sure their payments are done. They are among some of the best paying clients that we have for sure. Ray says, or he asks, are you only in San Antonio? No, hell no. I'll stay in Texas. I will do deals in San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and metro areas. So far, we're funding in all those five areas for sure. Trigon, great point. Very important to figure out step-by-step processes in your business and systematizing your processes. If you don't, it will stop you from scaling. That's 100% true. You need to get your systems in place. If you think about it, one note might only be $300, $400, $500 a month. You're not going to retire off one note. You need to have 10, 15, 20, 30 notes under your belt to really see financial freedom numbers. And when you have 20, 30, 40, 50 notes under your belt, you absolutely need systems. You need a power team. You need to have structure in your business too to make it happen. Very good question, Sohail. Appreciate that. Don, when you purchase a property, seller finance or sub 2, what is the target amount of monthly cash flow that you want to receive from the property per each $5,000 invested? So it's never really been asked to me that way, per each $5,000 invested. Generally, what I'd like to see is I'd like to get my money back in no more than 12 months. And I'll get my money back from either the down payment or the monthly cash flow. If I cannot get my money back within 12 months, then I need to see equity in the position. For example, if it's gonna take me 24 months to get my money back, I need to see a minimum of 10 to 12% or more equity position in the transaction. If it's gonna take me more than 24 months to get my money back, unless it's a turnkey situation, probably not gonna be interested in it. I don't like my money to be out, that long. I like your question, per every $5,000 invested. That's a good way to put it. Never really thought about it that way. Sonu, what are some of the exit criteria for an owner finance note? Great question. So you can hold it for cash flow. You can sell it and get cashed out. You can also hypothecate it, which is just a fancy word for pledging it as collateral to get a loan against it. So you don't have a house anymore to put as collateral, but you have a note, very valuable. So you can go ahead and pledge the note as collateral at a local community bank or perhaps a private lender, where he basically says, hey, I've got this note, it's got an unpaid principal balance of $100,000. Can I borrow $80,000? Can I borrow $70,000? If I don't make my payments, I'll go ahead and assign this note to you. You get to keep the note. That'll be serving as collateral. You can do a assignment of collateral to go ahead and do that. Those are the three basic things that you can do with notes. There's a few more dynamic options in which you can kind of use a mixture of those, but You're either going to be holding it, you're going to be selling it, or you're going to be getting a loan against it for sure. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure being with you guys. You guys had some awesome questions. Happy to have you guys on board. Few announcements for the group. There is a lot going on. Our VP of Group Growth, Mr. Beskar, is working on a phenomenal boot camp that's going to be geared specifically towards individuals who are going to be committing themselves to group growth under his leadership. That's going to be coming out shortly. We're going to be revamping the live Q&As so that instead of them being every single week at 5 on Mondays, we really put a lot more emphasis into them. Maybe we bring additional guests. Maybe we do a deep dive. Maybe we do a roundtable discussion, and we give you guys some additional meat on a shorter time basis situation. So we've got a lot of activity going on. I'm super happy for everyone's participation. It is my goal to get to 10,000 members. We're about to hit the $4,000 mark, the 4,000 member mark. I can't do this without you guys. Also, if someone wants to get the 10-hour owner finance training, this is my own little personal plug. Please hit me up. That is going to get revamped. It's going to get restructured as well. Price is going to go up. Until that happens, it's still available for $297. I think it's absolutely worth happening. If you doubt it, ask around in the group, and you guys are going to see how lives are being changed as we speak now. Until next week, hope you guys have an awesome week. I look forward to hearing about your deals. I look forward to hearing about your questions, and I want you guys to pledge to be sharks and get some deals out there. You guys have a great one. Take care.